Many companies are hiring experts to teach them about young people. These self-proclaimed millennial experts are on the rise. Last year, U.S. organizations reportedly spent between $60 and $70 million on so-called generational consulting. Derek Thompson is a senior editor for The Atlantic and recently wrote about millennials. Derek, good morning.
Good morning.
So the Wall Street Journal had reported that they spend as much as $20,000 an hour for these consultants. Who are these companies that are spending that amount of money?
$20,000, right, on a millennial consultant. I mean, it's really across the board. You have fast food restaurants, you have tech companies like Oracle, you have companies like HBO who are spending money not to learn how to treat the millennials who are their own employees, but rather how to reach millennials in this age of sort of media fragmentation. So it really is across the board.
I'm trying to figure out when we were all 20-something, what the age range of millennials. I don't recall anybody trying to figure out what do we need to do to find out what you guys like.
So therefore, why?
Yeah, what do they want to find out?
Right. The way that I think about this is...
And ask them, Derek. Ask them.
Right. I feel like this is one of those timeless problems. People have always been confused about young people. There are Plato quotes about not understanding young people. The Bible has chapters about this. And so when there's a timeless problem, there's always a few people who are ready to monetize that timeless problem. Right? How do I raise my child? How do I get along, disagree productively with my spouse? And so in a way, you can sort of understand where this is coming from. But then you look at some of the solutions that they're coming up with. Find work that's meaningful and treat your employees with respect. And you think this is rather obvious stuff for $20,000 an hour.
Kind of comment, don't you think? Common sense.
Just for the sake of me, what ages are millennials?
Typically, you think of this is an 80 million person generation born between the early 1980s and the late 1990s. That's really what we're talking about, and it really is this group that sort of came into the workforce around the Great Recession.
So they're about 36 now, then, 1980s.
The oldest of them, yeah, exactly, would be in their sort of mid-30s, and the youngest of them would be just graduating.
You know, they're spending more money. They have. Why are they the focus of the attention?
Well, for a couple of reasons. First of all, on the one hand, you have people that don't understand them as employees. They're always on their phones. They have this new fleet of apps, and so they exoticize them, essentially, and pay tens of thousands of dollars for a consultant to come in and say, actually, no, they're humans, and bring them back to the middle. Yes. And then sometimes you have companies like HBO who really are trying to reach a demographic that is not tapped into their legacy product like pay TV, and the question becomes, how do we get a new consumer demographic to buy our old product?
We can help them with that. Yes. Just stream.
Yes. They are the largest working demographic, are they not, right now?
They are. There are 80 million people in the generation, 50 million of them in the workforce. And this is an important point because 50 million people, right? This is 25% larger than the state of California. If I asked you, how do you get a person from California to work with you in the office? Your first question is, well, are they Northern California or Southern? Are they in the entertainment business or in retail or in tech? And you begin to break it down. This is not one big demographic blob. This is 50 million individuals, and they all have their own needs.
Do they have special needs that others don't, Derek?
No, I don't think they do. I think that a lot of what's happening here is that an older generation is seeing a younger group with smaller instruments in their hands, these little phones, and saying, we can't possibly understand them because they look so weird. They paid $20,000 to a person that tells them these are just human beings, and then they possibly treat them more like the human beings they should have been treated like at the beginning of the session.
Without stereotyping, is there, or do millennials work differently than baby boomers, for instance?
I think that absolutely young people who have access and have grown up in an environment of different media technology absolutely communicate differently. You're talking about comparing a generation of, landline phone users to digital natives who, might never use a landline phone in their entire life, and they're constantly communicating with people via, text and snaps and email. So it is a different focus, and it is a different way to communicate, but at the same time, it comes back to the same values. People want meaning from work. They want respect from their boss.
We want that at all ages, by the way.
Yeah.
I want meaning from work. Don't you, do?
Yes, darling.
Yes.
I do. I also want to know how they're different from 15-year-olds.
Right.
Well, that's a great question. I mean, 15-year-olds aren't working, so it's very difficult to figure out what they'll be like in 10 years.
But they have the same sources of information.
Right, exactly.
And
even more so.
You are one of those millennials you speak of, are you not?
I am indeed, yes.
Okay,
I confess.